here we are, here we go. Satan doesn't exist. Satan doesn't exist. And now, obviously, even if you're like, okay, remember this, guys, you're going to follow the Torah. That means that you can't use any other book of the Bible because they're all been grabbled or something, right? But you do have the book of Genesis in the Torah that talks about an individual who is responsible for deceiving Adam. Not opposition or adversary or some generic term, right? So over here in the old chat, someone says he won't go over the book of Job, right? Kind of poking him. And I don't want to see what, because it makes him look like an idiot, and he gets put on the spot. And let's see what they have to say about the old book of Job.
People are like triggered and they want me to go over Job.
Yeah.
Okay, here is Jack's perspective on Job. Don't take my word for it. Look it up for yourself. If you look at the context of the evolution, if you want to use that term, of the Hebrew language over time.
As he says, look it up for yourself. And he doesn't even tell you where to go to look anything up. He just says the Hebrew language over time has different dialects and blah, 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 blah.
It changes, just like, in the 70s you would have had groovy, and then now it's like everything is sick, and sick means good, right? So languages change, and the same happens for Hebrew. It did a change over a period of time. And if you look at the transcripts of Job, it appears as though the beginning of Job was written last and the end of Job was written first, based on the context of the age of the Hebrew that's in it.
Like he knows. This dude's maybe 40. Like he knows. He failed out of Bible school. All right. Where is he getting this secret knowledge about Job? And it's funny he'd use Job in particular, as I mentioned in my last video. Those are the oldest manuscripts we believe that we have that are from the Bible. The oldest copies, we think, based on where they were archaeologically found or whatever, we believe is the book of Job. And he's saying that the book of Job, over time, they recopied Job into a newer dialect and updated the language. But we have a comparison with the Dead Sea Scrolls. That the book of Job is exactly the same as what we have in the King James Bible. Who are you going to believe? Do I have to pull up the page from Wikipedia with all of the different comparisons between the copies of Scripture? Or you can believe this guy. And donate to Subscribestar and PayPal and his Cash App and whatever else.
And even the Jews say that it's an allegory. It's a story. It's for us to have understanding that you should trust in the Creator no matter what. So could they have put their own belief system into that version? Yeah, absolutely. And who was the testimony of the beginning of Job? Who was in heaven that witnessed the sons of Elohim appearing before Yah?
So because the person writing it down isn't mentioned, so what? Do we have to go all the way through the Torah and figure that one out too? I mean, everyone's just going to assume that it's Moses doing it. Well, who wrote Genesis? We're going to assume that it's Moses, but it doesn't say. The best you get is these are the generations of Adam. These are the generations of Cain. These are the generations of, which kind of indicates that that's those people signing off their lineage, right? But because the author of Job and who was actually writing it, then they're going to call it poetic. Now, the Jews that are only following the Torah, they would give any excuse just to throw the book of Job out because it's not in the Torah, right? And we want to look at like what we're going to here. I have the complete Torah, right, which is basically the Pentateuch, which is the first 5 books of the Bible. This is all you have. From your 66 books, you now only have 5 books. So if you want to be a Torah follower and a Torah believer and a back to the roots, back to Hebrew roots, you cannot use any other scripture anywhere to prove any of your points. But with this one in particular, that Satan does not exist, what are you going to do with the book of Genesis? What are you going to do? Obviously it comes in a little bit later. I don't think it's in Deuteronomy. Anyways, where you have Satan fighting over the body of Moses and all this stuff. So you got some problems you got to deal with in that. That might come in through like Joshua, now that I think about it. But Satan is definitely a guy, angel, cherubim in Genesis. Where's my thing? Here it is.
To make this claim. Who's the witness of that? It doesn't say anything about it. It just says it as a statement, as a matter of fact. Job didn't mention anything about it. Job didn't know what was going on. So who wrote that part down? It's just, look, guys.
No response, Jack. You're gonna get Glover back. You're gonna get Glover back. You're gonna get no response specifically to that question.
Was there a real Job? Yes, it was. Yeah, was there a real Job? I actually believe there was a real Job. Did bad stuff happen to him and he had faith with Yah that he would be taken care of and he got blessed afterwards? Yes, I believe that story's true as well.
He believes that's true. He believes that's true, but not the part with Satan in it. Isn't it kind of remarkably revealing how they want to believe certain parts of Scripture, but they don't want to believe the parts that they don't agree with, even though they have no reason to accept the part where Job was blessed. Okay? They don't have any, they have no reason to accept that Job was a real person, that Job was a rich guy who lost his stuff and then was blessed afterwards. They have no reason to believe that. None. But it fits their story and people believe it. They just don't like the Satan thing. These guys are like the Roman Catholics. They're worse than the Roman Catholics. With their little, Codex Vaticanus. Yeah, well, we'll just change them a little bit. The thing is that back in those days, the reason that even the Vaticanus isn't so messed up in the text is because people were afraid to do that kind of thing because they believed they would get retribution from God and they would be accursed. Okay? Nowadays, it's a free-for-all because no one believes in that. These guys don't believe in retribution from God. They don't believe in any of that. They don't believe in the curses talked about, especially particularly the book of Revelation. I don't know if it's this stream or another one where they talk about the book of Revelation where they pretty well dismiss it until they want to use it, right? Until they want to use it to back up one of their points, then they'll accept it. But if you try to, dismiss one of their points using some of these books, they'll just say, oh, well, that was mistranslated. It's an allegory, blah, blah, blah. You get it. It's comical with these guys because they are so sad and pathetic. I mean, it's quite obvious they don't have their lives together. And I don't want to go into do like the ad hominem attack thing, but you got a guy who's like 28, who's kind of sort of fresh out of a jail situation, who's not in, kind of lost his house because he wanted to go party with Nathan Thompson across the USA. When they're talking about they're pretty much using the donation money that is being given to them for like beer and pot. Okay. And this is where your information is coming from, these people. And this is not like a secret or a dox or anything. He just got out because apparently in Florida they have some really draconian laws regarding marijuana stuff, but it's neither here nor there. But it's like, and people are biting on it because again, these are the flat earth, secret knowledge, mysteries type people, which is very enticing. When people get opened up to the truth of things, they are very susceptible to this. All right, so these guys can say anything that they want to, and people will fall on it. And the thing is there's a lot of people that are in the chat that are against it, and making them look like fools, but they don't care because they don't care about being right. They care about making the money. And as much controversy as I could bring to them or anybody else could bring to them, that's a good thing because that feeds the machine. Okay, how YouTube works. The more negative that you can possibly be and the more confrontational, adversarial that you could possibly be on the internet, YouTube was going to make you skyrocket. And if all you care about is getting money in your Cash App, right, then that's good, right? That's how it is. And like I said, I think there's a whole Freemason thing going on here because especially with like Nathan Thompson. Typically, when you have a handing of the baton over in Freemasonry, you see it all the time in Hollywood. You see it all the time in right now what's going on in the political thing where Cuomo, right? He's been the one who's been granted the ability to bow out now, and they make him the scapegoat, and that's so we can hand the baton to the next person. It's kind of a Jesuitical Freemasonic approach, and I think that's what Nathan Thompson was doing, because he was acting really silly, really dumb, but he was on Netflix and all these Hollywood sort of things, acting really kooky. And then, he did some live streams and did some debates where he's really flying off the rails. And then he's totally disappeared now. And his protege here, Austin Whitsit's up here talking very little about flat earth. Now he's coming out about going back to Hebrew roots. He's like, now I got you. Now you know me because I'm the flat earth. You saw me on flat earth debate, but now, I'm going to let you in on the real gravy, right? The real gravy.
It's all I'm saying is that even in Judaism, they call it an allegory. Like, yes, it's a true story about Job, but they fluff it up to get the point across.
They mess with it, man. They mess with it. But they don't mess with the Torah, do they, Jet?
No, they can't.
They have this. No, they can't.
Okay, so in Judaism mysticism called Kabbalah, they believe that they can't change one jot or tittle from the Torah because they actually believe that the fabric of the universe would fall apart. Like it's a ultra spiritualistic way of thinking, but because of that, the Torah has been preserved.
Yeah, and some of the Pharisees were studying the scriptures before Yeshua was born.
Because of that, the Torah has been preserved? What?
And they were still wrong too. So, I used to go to a Baptist church.
Numerology. Yeah, numerology comes from Kabbalah, by the way. I just saw something about satanic numerology, Chaldean and Pythagorean. Yeah, numerology comes from Kabbalah.
Like synagogue of Satan, beware of those in the inn who claim to be a certain people group, but in fact, they are the synagogue of Satan, would be like a building in opposition to Yah. Right. A synagogue or a collective fellowship
of your father, the devil. That's what I think that this stuff is of your father, the devil. And again, I don't want to do the ad hom attack thing, but it's like, if your own life isn't pretty well decently in order, right? People mess up and people have mistakes and things like that. But if you don't have your life in order, you're going to go from being a flat earth guy to all of a sudden being a Torah guy. And it's like, what? And then there's Mystery Jack, right? Who shows up out of nowhere. Had like 500 subs on his YouTube for like the last year. Austin Whitsit shows up out of nowhere. Brought on by Nathan Thompson, who was passed the baton and was now able to be demonized and being able to leave the scene because, he wants to go get a regular job. Okay. Very, very weird stuff. Especially when you want to go and attack the Book of Job, which is like, there's pretty good. We got pretty old texts of Job and almost complete manuscripts from the Dead Sea Scrolls that they're dating those things as some of the oldest stuff ever, and it's exactly the same as what we have in our Bible. What do you say to that? Well, I know, and I have the evidence, and if you do your own research, the Hebrew dialect has been changed. And it's like, do you have any validation, verification, evidence for anything you say? No, of course not. Sad and pathetic. We'll see what comes up next.